off. No, we're fucked.
Good skills again by him. Oh, marvellous goal by Lundgren.
Welcome to the Rangers journey.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your Tuesday night edition of the Journal with myself, Mitch, who you will have to bear with me because Jesus hasn't taken the wheel, so I'm on the controls tonight, so something will go wrong at some point. But joining me to my right is the handsome devil himself, the yin to my yang, Mr. Scott. How are we?
I'm a yin to your yang when it suits you. All you do is abuse me, boy. Aye, but I'm fine, Mitch. How's you?
I'm all the better for seeing your beautiful face. And adding some much-needed glamour to proceedings this evening and making her debut on the normal pod tonight, not the members only, is the ever-glamorous Nikki. Thank you for joining us, and how are you?
Good, thanks, you?
I'm no bad. See, like, we have to watch our P's and Q's, Scotty. Like, there's a lady present that's no me. So tonight, everyone, we are going to look at players from the domestic scene that Rangers could potentially sign either in January or with half of you into next summer's view. Transfer windows, as always, with everybody in the comments. Make sure you like, you subscribe, and let us know your thoughts there as well about any players that you think that you'd love to see Rangers sign. Whether that be a wee gem that's over at Motherwell, whether that be somebody over at Dundee United, or Stephen Presley, the librarians. 10,000 Mexican army that he's got there at the moment. Feel free to pipe up and let us know any players that you would like us to maybe have a wee look at too. Nikki, I am very conscious. I believe we only have you for about half an hour. Is that right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So, Nikki has went for what I can only describe as one of my favourite picks of the league so far when we look at the back line. A player that needs no introduction himself. Now, spoiler alert, I am making sure that I load this poster up properly. Scotty, see if the layout's wrong, fix it for me.
Oh, good.
So, Nikki has went with the one, the only, and that I cannot lie, the placement of the RJ Journal logo on this is perfect because it's taking his wee head off, is Alexandra Gogic from St Mirren.
Mm-hmm.
And we have none other than wee Willie Winky. Billy J is joining us as we speak. Billy, where are you? Billy, we think we have you.
Right, just carry on now.
I'll remove him and put him back in.
I'll get him, it's fine. Just you do what you're doing, pal.
So, Nikki, talk us through your selection of Alex Gogic there from St Mirren. Talk us through your ideas there, because we can all see there from the slides, Gogic is coming in at 31, natural right footer, contract through to May 2027. So come talk us through how we got to here.
Basically, and what you said, just coming in there, the back line, it needs work, and I think he would do well. He brings experience, which we're kind of lacking in the squad since the summer signings. He also has some leadership qualities and all. I think he's quite aggressive too. He's no scared to get in there for the tackle. But I think he would fit in well in our back line.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as you say, I think it's some of those, just a bit of hard-nosed, no-nonsense, a centre-back being a centre-back.
A defender that actually defends.
That'll never catch on in 2025, I'm afraid. What's old is new. If we're allowed to take, 40-yard throw-ins, then we're allowed to take a centre-back that's just a big... Scott, he's one of your club and all, big baldy man. Big baldy man at the back. I know you've even got the AstroTurf on the night.
Can they call me baldy just now, Mitch? Can I call me baldy just right at this minute, pal?
All I need is a wee steamer and your wee bit crazy and we're all right. But I think there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons there, obviously, as well, about having Gogic in the team. That almost like that Leon Balogun role, from the last two seasons without, you can see obviously from his appearances, even looking at last season, played 43 times domestically, between, all the various cups, including a bit of European experience in the Conference League.
Yep.
One goal, average 6.8, in most games, average just under a 7. Sometimes for your third or fourth choice defender, that's all you need. You just need Mr. Dependable. The guy that if the day ends in a Y, he's going to put on the 80s running shorts and he's going to run through a wall no matter what happens in front of him.
And that's it. He is dependable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when you look at the core of his game there as well, touching on the slide there of he's got the experience within multiple SPFL clubs, so he's no stranger to the league. If memory serves me right, he must be coming up about 150 domestic appearances, roughly, in the SPFL since his time. And that's that's a good player that does the grunt work that, nobody wants to. Billy, how we doing?
Good. I'm a here. I'm a present.
You're like the head from the Power Rangers. You're just floating. It's beautiful. It's never
That's
looked so
exactly
good.
how I feel as well. I was floating in the internet ether there, so glad to be aboard.
Well, get back on the Danny Rock and Roll Express, Billy. I'm really disappointed in you. I'm not going to lie, Billy. You've not even got a good shirt on for me tonight. I was hosting and everything, and you've
I'm
turned up.
playing it very safe.
No, I feel let down. I was told about these shirts.
Exactly. See, we've even told Nikki.
It's one shirt. But you know the old joke: you wear one Noel Edmonds shirt, and that's all you get remember.
Well, it could be worse. It could be a camel toe.
Well, you can only see me from the waist up, fortunately.
Kylie Minogue over there. So, Billy, obviously, barring all nonsense there, lovely to have you with us tonight. What would you say, Nicky, obviously looking at the cons with Gogic in terms of his limited top-level experience, not necessarily SPFL, but when you look at like a top 5 league or even, a lower tier, that kind of level 2 league in Europe, when you look at maybe like a place like Holland or something like that, he's maybe not been over somewhere like that. And at the age of 31, where come April time will be 32, so do you think that's a limitation, or do you think that in days gone by, age is just a number when you're a centre back at that point?
I do. I think it is, for me, it would be in the short term. He obviously isn't going to be a long term thing for us, given age and stuff. But for now, I think he would do well. He's got experience and he's proven in this league. And now that is what we need. We need experienced players who play in this league. We're crying out for them.
Exactly, and I think, as you say, nobody's saying that he has to come in, as a starting player. Nobody's saying that he has to
No,
walk in there
definitely
and
not.
be, John Souttar's replacement if John Souttar left in the summer, but equally, a player that's under, market value of under £500,000. You look at what we've chucked about in the summer, for,
Exactly.
let's be honest, players who for the first half of the season, third rather of the season, haven't exactly set the world on fire and don't belong to us. At £500,000, we've spent £500,000 on a lot worse.
It's well worth the punt, in my opinion, definitely. And I would go. I think he's better than Chico. I would also go as far to say he's better as Fernandez. I that's my thoughts on it. We need experience, and we do need to try and sort something with that back line in January, or we're going to be left up shit creek come next summer. Sorry, Scotty. First time.
Other creeks are available.
Sorry, other creeks.
Don't worry about
Speaking of which, Scotty, look at you, beautiful, majestic. What are your thoughts on Gogic?
He's an absolute must to bring into the squad. I think you need, as Nicky's very well pointed out, in terms of you need strength and depth. You need experience. 31 years old, but who cares about that? Davy Weir was 35 when he signed, and look what happened. Hugo Ehog, God rest his soul, he was also 34, 35 when he signed, and look at the two of them done. Big Hugo could still manage an overheat kick at Parkhead to make his win 1-0. Gogic is an absolute no-brainer for me, Mitch. I love the attitude of him. He's very much in people's faces. He's up for the fight. He's effective in the air. Not bad with his feet, considering he used to be a 6 as well earlier on in his career. He's got the experience, which also Nicky correctly pointed out on about Giga and Fernandez. I don't really agree with the Fernandez point because I don't think we've seen enough of Fernandez yet. I'm holding out hope here. But Giga definitely. Giga's like Bambi on ice playing in that Rangers team.
Absolutely.
I think Gogic would bring some much needed leadership at centre half. There was a comment further up about Suter in defending the halfway line. Would they be able to defend the halfway line? We don't know yet because we don't know how Danny Rowe's going to play. He's 4 matches in charge. There's a lot of...
There it's there, mate. I've just found the comment there for you.
That's it. We've seen Suter do well at Hearts as a box defender. When you're at us and have to defend on the halfway line, can he do that? I don't know, to be brutally honest with you. But I do know he's getting intelligence to make up the yards that he's probably not got now that he had 2 years ago. And to me, it's this Rangers team are screaming out for somebody with that attitude. We need that never say die attitude. We need that fight, that battle. I mean, how much of a difference? He put a man in match performance in against Motherwell. How much of a difference would he have made on Sunday?
He got an assist and all, didn't he, on Saturday? He done brilliant.
He did. Considering how Celtic came out as early doors on Sunday, I would like Gogic in the trenches for when that happens.
See, when I look at Gogic, and I'm going to come to yourself, Billy, on this, not setting you up for failure or anything here, I promise. But I think when you look at John Suter, he is what I would call a hurricane door defender. When the hurricane's at the door, the shutters are down and he is the battering ram that protects the house. I think having somebody like Gogic beside him, who has got a decent pair of heels on him, but he'll go and do the dirty work and the ugly work that, I call it the agricultural work that Suter doesn't necessarily do in his game. Do you think that's something that could maybe help, especially the likes of Fernandez coming through, Ciala coming through, and maybe give them on a 2-year basis even, just that breathing space to develop?
Is the Suter hurricane door defender, is that hurricane the reason Suter keeps getting caught under the ball? Is it I'm just wondering if it's a possible explanation. I would love to see Gogic in. Any time I've seen him, I'm sick of seeing players at Rangers who are playing at 80% or are only 80% of the player they think they'll be when they go to England, or think they're here as a stepping stone. He's a guy that's gone to, like not very high level club and has carved out a career by going, not sure what the rules are on the swearing, Scotty, but balls to the wall. Can we say balls to the wall? Is that all? But he's that kind of player. He's had a career by doing that. And I think just in terms of the example that he would set to younger players in terms of the commitment, I love how he defends. I love how he poses a threat in the opposition box. We love that kind of player at Rangers, and we've been starved of that sort of commitment in recent years. And I think the age, he's a good age to be helping, the likes of maybe Fernandez and Ciala. I'm not convinced there are players there that, it would be a lot on Gogic to try and turn these guys into serious players if they're not already well on the way. But as far as his age goes as well, like Leon Balogun's 37 and he was like knocking about last year. And loved Leon Balogun. Like my brother was saying at the weekend, if he was fit, he would still be the best defender in that Rangers squad just now. But he never really put a run in, whereas Gogic is battle hardened. He's shown that he can do it week in, week out in the SPFL. And I think, I think you'd find out what the likes of Fernandez, etc., were made of playing alongside a Gogic, because if you can't step up when you've got someone like that who can organise and lead by example and is scary in a good way, then you're not going to be much of a player. And unfortunately, I think Gogic is, not saying a dying breed, but you see less and less of these players who have a limited ability, but absolutely maximise it. Whereas I feel that our squad is awash with players who've got lots of technical ability and sort of not the commitment that a Gogic would have. So yeah, personally, I'd love to see how he could maybe develop. I don't think he's a Davy Weir. I think Davy Weir's quite scary. I think he's scarier than Davy Weir. But I would love to see him in there. And I'm not sure Gogic is turning Suter into a proper defender at this stage of his career. Suter's, he's too mature, he's too set into what kind of player he's going to be. And for me, he's turned out to be a big disappointment to Rangers. He's promised a lot, he's never really delivered. And I think he'd be better with Gogic alongside him. I'd rather see Gogic and Ian Other, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely fair point, mate. You know, I think almost there's almost an element now with Suter where you say to yourself, well, have we reached where we're going to reach with him? You know, have we reached the apex of John Suter's career at Rangers? Because as we all know, his contract's up at the end of the season, and there's been no chirps of, you know, a new contract or anything like that. And I think obviously when you look at the current backline situation, you know, there's about 27,000 loans, a 6'9" fridge freezer. You know, a 6'9" fridge freezer who can't get in the team at the moment, and Fernandez and Enciala, who was sent out to exile under Russell Martin. You know, there's not an awful lot there who are guaranteed to be here next season. And when you start to look at potential players out versus players in, fast forward to the summer again, a Gogic probably becomes quite an appealing option at that point if John Suter decides he's gone off to Turkey, or he's gone off down at the Championship, or he's going off somewhere that will offer him even 35 grand a week in his prime, you know, in his prime years for 3 years. Something, let's be honest, that's something that we are not going to offer him here. Whereas 30 grand a week in most leagues, you know, when you look at a German league or England or anything, it's not an awful lot of money, really. You know, it buys you a Portuguese under 21's right foot if you're lucky. So we're going to move on to our next player, and this is a player that has come via recommendation of Scotty. Scotty, we are going to look for... Oh, wait. Wrong Hearts player for Scotty. I won't do the heartbreak to you, Scotty, again.
That's a previous love of mine.
I know, it's all right, though. You divorced him and had me instead. And look at that. At least I didn't let you down, mate. I didn't sign a new contract elsewhere. But Scotty, take it. We've got Claudio Braga, obviously, who has been sensational at Hearts, you know, since the summer. He is, for those in the comments who are a little bit unaware about Braga, he is a 26-year-old Portuguese player. Current contract through to May 2028, and plays on both either wing or up top next to, you know, Scotland's very own Lawrence Shankland. So, Scotty, take it away.
Right, well, I suppose I'm going to pick a fight with you when I say this, Mitch, because this boy's had much more an impact than fellow Asgard, didn't it? Right, fact, proof.
I can't dispute it, mate.
Yeah.
He's settled in better. His numbers are better. He's a better player, and he's came for a lower level, right? So that's my first kind of argument for signing Duff Championship players, because that's what they all are. Duff, let's be honest about it. Claudio Braga's come in, he's took the league by storm. He's a big reason Hearts are where they are. There's a lot of factors in terms of why Hearts are top of the league, but Claudio Braga's probably the best player, let's be honest about it, so far this season. He's very good at beating a man. I've said on his pod for how long have we been going now? Nearly 2 years since I started the pod, that all you need to do to beat a low block is skin a player. Claudio Braga can skin a player. He's got a bit of trickery, he's got an eye for goal, he's got an assist in him. And guess what? Hearts signed him for the Norwegian second division. And we signed a guy that's capped with Norway that's done nothing.
Who's pals with Aaron Haaland.
Absolutely. But he's the honest, Mitch, apart from that goal against Dundee United, he's done absolutely he-all. And the only reason I'm bringing up fellow Asgard is because they're the same type of player that you would want in your team. You know what Braga brings, you would expect Asgard to bring for all the hype and the money and all that kind of stuff. I know Doug's put in here that his primary positions are a centre forward, but he's been used out in the wing, he's been used as a 10, he's been used across the front three for Derek McInnes. It's smart management. And do I think he's a realistic target? No. Are Hearts going to sell him? No. But
certainly not, you know, domestically.
Not right now, no. And he's going to cost a wee bit more than £1 million. I've seen a few comments online for Rangers fans like, go and buy him and Casaridis. Offer them $500,000 in January for Casaridis. What?
Aye, I'd like a wee drink about they're having.
Aye, exactly. I know. Tell us about it. You're not going to get this guy like, anytime soon, but he's definitely an example of one where we should be shopping, two the type of player that we should be looking for, and three his overall ability and impact has been brilliant for Hearts. They came in. Is he a player I would love us to sign? Absolutely. I would also love to sign Gogic, Davy Watson, Shankland, blah, 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 but that's not going to happen because we're shopping in Duff markets. We're shopping down south. So I can't see us unearthing a gem like this. But if Niall Scotland was at the club, we'd probably have already unearthed the next one.
20 of them.
For example, Jeff Day, for example. But I think this guy is out with our reach now. I know that's probably shocking considering it's Hearts, but they're the ones at top of the league, 11, 12, 13 points clear us. Like, we're not going to get this guy anytime soon. Hearts would need to have a massive capitulation and he would need to keep playing well. And then the fee. What's a realistic transfer value for this boy? Rangers would probably not pay £5 million to get him at a Tynecastle. Is that me being unrealistic?
I think based on form, and if you say, you know, with the amount of interest that is likely to be in a player that's in form, especially a centre forward and winger who's got pace to burn, I don't think even a minimum of 3.5 mil, you know, upwards, I don't think that's, you know, for a punt, you know, from a team, even from, if you look at likes of Holland or whatever, you know, if you look at Holland, Austria, or somewhere like that, it's not out of the realms of probability, I don't think.
Exactly. And just to answer your question, Random Madness, no, I absolutely would not take TikTok Todd back to my club. The guy was an absolute shambles when he was here. He only turned out when he could be bothered. He fell out with managers and then he made an RC sell on Instagram. He didn't have the know-it-all, the mentality,
brain capacity,
the behaviour.
He was missing the maturity and all.
The behaviour, the professionalism. Absolutely nothing about him was a Rangers player.
So I'm going to touch quickly with Nicky. Would you take Braga, yea or nay?
I would, yeah. But realistically, we're not getting him. Hearts will not sell him, especially this season.
Exactly. I think the points have been made there, and Billy, I'm going to bring you in there. Don't worry, finish your drink. Don't worry. I don't want you having a parched throat. Like, just you get your drink in you first. Billy, do you think when we look at January or potentially even summer, because obviously we have laid out quite a lot of money in the summer just there, do you think there's a good chance there that a Braga is the type of profile of player that we are maybe looking for in the forward line?
I certainly hope so. We got a wee bit of backside covering in the recent update from Thelwell and Stewart, where we were told that the reason that we concentrated on the English market was because it was limited time and European games, and Thelwell et al. Were sticking to the markets that they knew. Not sure I totally buy that, because I think that the 49ers were doing due diligence a long time ago, and I hope we are going to be using this amazing data that we were told we were going to have, because somehow Hearts have turned up. You know, I've got to be honest, when I heard the whole Tony Bloom analytics data thing, I thought another sort of flavour of the month thing. Whatever data they're working off to dig up a player like Claudio Braga from, was it Norwegian second tier? That's some proper Moneyball stuff there, because I saw him playing before I knew where he'd come from, and someone's missed a trick there, and we clearly, I know it was driving Scotty nuts at the start of the season that we just seemed to be going to England to just pick up like whatever we needed. And look what's happened, just shopping in that pool. So I'm hoping that going into next season, we're going to see the full might of the 49ers data model unleashed, because I do remember we had a couple of pods on the channel the start of the season. We were talking to some Leeds podders and experts, and they were basically saying that so much of what Leeds had done was driven by the data modelling, and that actually with their promotion, they'd pretty much doubled. I can't remember, but it was something like they had 6 people working on the data and analytics side, and they were doubling that with the move up to the English Premiership. So I'm hoping that we're going to see next season the kind of thing that we've seen Hearts do this season. The problem is we have bought in such a scattergun fashion, and we've done a lot of damage. Once again, we've given a transfer chest to the guy who didn't have the experience, and then left someone else to clear up the mess. So sad to say, I think we're kind of worse off in some ways than we were before the start of the season. There's damage to be undone. We spent this last season, it was all about getting rid of the deadwood. By the end of this season, we could have a lot more deadwood that we only signed a year ago. So I really hope that they're going to dig this stuff up, because let's be honest, if an organisation the size of Hearts, and no harm to them, they've done well, but if they can be digging up a Claudio Braga, why can't we?
It's a good question, Billy. And I'm going to load that question right onto Nicky. Nicky, what do you think has put us in a position? And I'm going to take the personality aspect of Farewell, and I want you to kind of park that to one side, because I think we're all feeling a certain type of way that we can all pretty much agree. We all feel a certain type of way about Farewell and Co at the moment. But if we said it was anybody else who shopped the way that they did, what do you think has been one of the root causes for the club to have got so much of some of the transfer market wrong? Has it been, as Scotty touched on earlier on, has it just been that Danny Rowe's only been in the door for 2 weeks, so he's not had a chance to obviously completely, immerse his ideology on players and, get that message to stick, not stink. That's been, the early part of the season under Russell Martin. But what do you think has led to some of the players not performing? Like players like Joe Rothwell, who, I look at Joe, and there was a huge clamour from Leeds fans for Joe Rothwell to stay there. That's a player who we watched him play well for Leeds last year. So where the hell's it all went so undone since coming here?
I think some of them just don't cut it. I don't think they cutted it under Russell Martin, and I don't think they're going to cut it under Danny Role either. I think it was lazy recruitment in the summer. I know they say it was time and all this, and then as Scotty said, dip them into the same pool. I think that's where we're going wrong. We need to stop this going to the Championship all the time. Look at what we could have in our own league, what we could have had, and look what we've got.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at, myself, Scotty, and some of the other boys in the scouting department there as well, we've looked at, the Scandinavian leagues, Billy, leagues that you'll be quite familiar with, obviously, just by geography at the moment. For anyone unaware, Billy's overseas, like we haven't just kidnapped him and left him in a wee black box somewhere. But when you start to look at Scandinavian leagues, there are a big raft of talented players that have went from places like the Right to Dream Academy into likes in Norway, into Sweden, into Finland. That's the leagues that we should be going, okay, well, you've made entry step 1 into Europe and you've done well here. There should be there should be players within there that we should be going, right, okay, well, you can take the next step here. Arguably, a player like Diamandi's already done that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Billy, what do you think has prevented Thelwell from opening up his eyes and saying, do you know what, we need to get scouts extensively in the Baltics or into different parts that aren't top 5 leagues in Europe?
Well, he's indicated that that for next season we will, but that's because he was getting the criticism that all these players from England, a lot of them just hadn't worked out, and even the likes of Asgard came from down there. So he's indicated that, but the problem I think Thelwell's got is credibility. He can say what he likes. He hasn't actually done anything that he can hang his hat on in terms of credibility. So he's saying kind of what we want to hear, which is, the reason we went to England is, it was a little bit of a rush job in terms of like getting ready for Europe, and we'll be widening the net for next season. The proof of the pudding will be in the eating, but I mean, we all know why we're sceptical about Thelwell, the signings he's made, how he spent the money, how he's recruited. This is what will be interesting. A month ago, when the atmosphere was a bit more febrile around Russell Martin, there was a suggestion that if the 49ers had anything about them, that they will be quietly sourcing replacements for Thelwell and Stewart pretty much now. And that although we might not see people kicked out in an unceremonious sort of way, that there might be someone coming in. I hope, if that's the case, they get them in well before the start of next season, because there are, I mean, despite what you think, Mitch, like I live about 500 metres from like the Malmo Stadium, and I just can't get excited about Swedish football. I've tried. God knows I've tried, but it's just, it's like try watching teams that aren't that great that you don't care about. What I will say is, if anyone wants an idea what is possible in terms of data and getting a coach in and doing something, you want to, I presume this is news over there, but you want to look at what's happened in the Swedish, the Allsvenskan this season, where the champions are a team called Mjällby, who have never won anything before, have only spent a handful of seasons in the top flight. They are in a village of 1,000 people, and they get attendances. Their stadium holds about 6,000 people. The guy they got in wasn't really a seasoned coach before, but he had all these theories about spatial awareness and peripheral vision and how people take in data before recycling the ball. And they absolutely romped the league this season. So clearly, if a wee team in Sweden can pick up players like that, if they can get a coach in that can make a difference, we should be looking at stuff like that. If Thelwell's got anything about him, he would be looking at Mjällby, he would be looking at their players, he would be looking at their coach, he would be looking at anything we could pick up on, because we're supposed to be best in class, we're supposed to be the best in Scotland, and Hearts have absolutely cleaned their clock in terms of recruitment and how they've gone about the start of the season. Whether that will last through the season, we'll see. I don't think they'll do an Aberdeen. I don't think they'll go off a cliff like Aberdeen did. But frankly, I find it a wee bit embarrassing to look at an operation the size of Hearts and see how well they've done, and then the money that we have spent on the likes of Chermiti. So Thelwell can talk a good game. He does talk a good game, but so far he doesn't actually deliver anything. So I'm sceptical, and I'm still pretty much of the mind that I wouldn't mind if the 49ers are lining him up for an exit before the summer.
Interesting. But I'm going to quickly just touch on to Nicky quickly, because I know you'd mentioned before we came on. How are you time-wise, pal?
I am all right. 5 minutes I've got.
Oh, look at that. What a treat we've got. She's really, so keeping on the Hearts model, because the Hearts are already pumping. Let's have a wee look at my pick for tonight. Listen, somebody was going to make a terrible pun. It might as well be me. And as I mentioned previously, there is a skill issue on my behalf. They're loading up slides, but we've got there eventually.
Right. Hold on a minute. See, before you start this, right? How many times on a podcast, and people in the comments, if you've been watching us long enough, you know me and him are at each other's throats for the best part of 2 years about this. About Rangers signing Lawrence Shankland. Knew that the opportunities came and went, right? Great Wall, Carruthers just says it. Shankland ship has sailed, right? It's done. It's gone.
It has.
Why the heck did you pick Lawrence Shankland when you didn't want him at a club in the first place?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Our Billy forgot to give us a player, so I left Billy with my actual pick. So, and I thought I would do Billy a solid and give him the star boy of the
I'd have picked
selections.
him. I'd have picked him, defo.
Me too,
See,
to be fair. I still
well,
would. And if we could get him in January, I would take him. I
but see,
would.
so before Scotty tries to tan my arse again there online there, Scotty, just you remember I was trying to do a Billy a solid.
No, I knew exactly what you were doing. I'm just looking forward to seeing you kiss Shanklin's ass for a couple of minutes. It's going to be fucking mad.
No, see, this is why we have 3 pundits. I don't even need to say a nice word about him. Anyway, Nicky, so your thoughts there, what would your thoughts be on Lawrence Shankland, who is
I
one of the
actually can't
current
believe
top
we're still
scorers?
talking about him, and he's still no ways, to be honest. Like, how long has this been going on now? It's getting beyond a joke, but I would still take him. If the opportunity came, I would still take him.
Absolutely, and the numbers don't lie this season. He's already on, 9 for the season? It might not be pretty, I might not like it, and sometimes I have to eat a slice of humble pie. I'm sure Scotty would like to feed that to me there as we're speaking. But sometimes, you've just got to suck one on the chin there and say, well, do you know what? I do still have questions on a personal note of how would he be in that European level, in that Europa League level. But I think domestically, you know what you get with him.
Yeah.
It's all filler, no thriller with him. He's going to be that player that will just outwork 11 other players in the opposition. And I think sometimes you can't breed that into a player. And I will say, previous comments I've said about Shankland still stand because this is killing me saying nice things about him. Scotty, would you like a chance to pop some salt in the winds while we're here?
Not much to say about it, mate. The guy scores goals, offers you leadership up front. Fine, I know what you're going to say. How many did they score last season? They played a 10 last season, doesn't count. But regardless,
Doesn't it count?
I think, in all fairness, as well, there's context to his last season as well. Neil Critchley didn't really know what to do with him because Neil Critchley, and I will say Critchley, or whatever we were pronouncing it, he did okay when he was at Hearts, but I think he just never quite knew his own best lineup at Hearts. He found a way to get them ticking and get them okay.
Mitch, see what made me want Shankland and a Rangers top so much was I seen him. They played against us in a cup semi-final. We were beating them 2-0 at half time. I think it might have been under come on, and he was getting off, and he was getting it to Barry Mackay, Penrice, Cammy Devlin. Everybody was getting a piece of his mind when they were walking down that tunnel that Hearts weren't good enough that day. He's constantly on at other players, and this is where Rangers have went wrong. Rangers haven't had any leadership up front in the last 5 years. Even Morelos was here. We didn't have enough leadership up front. You've not got anybody that's vocal. Dessers wasn't vocal. Dessers could finish fine when he wanted to, but he wasn't good at leading a team. For example, with Dessers, you would never ever stick a captain's armband on him, right? But you just wouldn't have when he played for us.
He couldn't be that target man.
Aye, but Shankland would be in your leadership group because he knows the league, he scores goals, la-di-da-di-dum. The argument's endless for me, if you ask me.
So I'm just going to move swiftly on to Billy now because I'm not eating any more Shankland humble pie. But I will say, taking the Shankland question to you, Billy, what do you think stopped Rangers from putting a serious offer to Shankland in the summer?
I wish I knew. I know the arguments down the years about whether he would fit the style of play, and then he went off the boil a bit. But it's Occam's razor. It's like sometimes the simple solution is the one you need to go for. If you've got like a goal scorer who's proven in the league, he's a Rangers supporter, and unlike a lot of the time we talk about, we should go for this player or that player. And in reality, it's probably not practical because there would be the politics of it. The team in question would rather sell to a team down south in the Championship than sell to Rangers. They would have all the posturing. The fans would make life hell for the player. There's none of that with Shankland. Everyone knew he's a bear. Everyone knew he'd want to come. he was available on a free, and I really hope it wasn't like a Russell Martin ego thing where no, this isn't the kind of player I want, because an experienced manager and to be fair, an experienced technical director should be building a squad, and maybe they've looked. Maybe it's a budgetary thing. Maybe they've looked and gone, we're kind of lumbered with Danilo. As much as he's come on to like a wee bit of a game, we've got this £5.5 million player who's presumably on solid wages. And when you look at the spreadsheet, that slot is filled. I just don't see how you can look at £8 million for Shamiti and we couldn't have brought Shankland in and somehow haggled Everton down to 7 million for Shamiti. I've got no explanation for it other than possible snobbery. Possibly they've just felt it wasn't a priority. But there's no logical reason why. I think he's going to be the great what if player of this particular generation. I don't think we're going to get him in his peak, and I think we are going to look back and wonder what he could have done in a couple of Rangers teams down the years, and it's going to be a sore one. And again, it's another one of those at the start of the season. We all, like us simple football fans, predicted the issues with Russell Martin's style of play. We predicted the issues with the squad. We saw so many problems coming, and of course we don't know any better, and we were right. And I think all of the fans who've wanted Shankland in for a year or two are right about that as well. But I don't think we'll get a chance to prove the doubters wrong, because I think we've missed the boat on it.
Do you know, I think there's a lot of truth in that there as well, Billy, and I think that was really, really nicely put there as well. Sometimes when I think we spoke about Shankland that many times that we all feel like we need a holiday after having the great Shankland debate. So speaking of, when you're booking your next holiday, don't forget to have a wee look at our lovely sponsors, the Bluebells Bar, over in Lanzarote, just to our lovely Billy's right-hand side. Don't forget to check them out there when you're out there. Kenny, you're well catered for when you're out there. Scotty, don't say I don't know how to plug anything, son. But I think before we go on to Billy's Starboy pick of the bunch that Billy knew absolutely everything about before we went live tonight, when you look at some of the deals that have been floated about, prior to coming in, obviously there's been a couple of really, really good shouts there as well in the comments throughout. I've seen Nicky Devlin's name being mentioned. I've seen there's been players like Jack McKenzie, who last season went down south, that Scottish born, Scottish qualified. He takes up a qualified homegrown squad player option. At the time, I think McKenzie was 25, 26 at the end of last season. That was a tap-in. I understand why we maybe didn't go for the likes of Penrice. However, I understand that argument if we don't leave ourselves with just one left back at the moment. But that's a whole different argument and a whole different podcast on its own. One that we've covered many a time in the last couple of months, because obviously we've had a rare time as a support this season. I think at the moment about the current recruitment models, we've touched on Shankland there. That was a tap-in, but you say, okay, cash the cheque for Dessers, whether that be £4.5 or £5 million, whatever the cheque was that we got for it. Equally, Dessers was on reportedly somewhere between 26 and 30 grand a week. So surely you take half of that 30 grand a week at 15 grand a week, which is quadruple what Shankland was apparently earning at Hearts at the time. Surely, rumour had it at the time at Hearts he was on around about, I think he was about 4 grand a week roughly at the time. That was a tap-in.
Kenny in now.
Kenny, see, don't say I'm no good to you, Kenny. Now you've just knocked off work, you can get a nice cold one put in your hand there while you listen to me bluff my way through this pod. But genuinely, when you're Thelwell and co, what do you think has made Thelwell and Purdy kibosh the likes of the Mulligan deal and not explore options like McKenzie when McKenzie was here, or your Cammy Devlins or your Nicky Devlins when they were here? And before anyone in the comments says why you're not mentioning Lennon Miller, I'm not mentioning Lennon Miller because I don't see a world where we give another domestic team £5 to £6 million for a player who's now went off to Italy. We just, if we're being honest, we had Lennon Miller at home and Bailey Rice, and we can't get him in the team at the moment. So there's no point in harking on about, a Helena Troy ship that once was. So, Nicky, what do you think made the recruitment team opt to cut some deals off? Like the Mulligan one that was apparently a tap in.
I think it comes. I think we turn our nose up at these players too much. It is. It's just snobbery, and I think it's like it needs to stop. Like these are players that is going to do well for us domestically, which we need. Above and beyond anything else, we need to be doing it domestically, and these are the types of players that would come into the squad and do well for us domestically. But I think, as has been said numerous times in the comments, it's snobbery. We turn our nose up at these players.
And that's that. I mean, boys, I'm going to come to you individually. Do you think this is where there's maybe a disconnect with people like Thirlwell coming in that maybe Coppin understood better? And very much a loaded barrel question, Scotty, that I'm going to come back to yourself. Do you think that when you look at the Scottish market, Coppin was definitely much more open to looking at Scottish players than obviously Thirlwell and co are? And you take the snobbery aspect about it, but the disconnect that I see was Coppin seemed to understand that in successful Rangers teams of the past, you had, let's call them the functional players that knew the Scottish League, but they were the spine of the team, where you had guys like Kenny Miller in there, you had guys like, as you say, Davy Weir in the team, you had guys who've been workhorses throughout the SPFL that they weren't always going to be sexy, flash in the pan, 9 out of 10 players. But much like Gogic that Nicky gave us earlier on, they're players that are going to give you a 7 out of 10, but they're going to give you a 7 out of 10 in 35 out of 38 league games over the course of a season. And if my maths are wrong there, first person to pipe up in the comments tells me I'm leaving you look like Voldemort. So, Scotty, I'm coming to you.
You're right in terms of it being a loaded question, Mitchie. It's a big topic. It's a big topic as to why we don't do this anymore. I'll look at previous ownership in the beginning. If you think back, David Murray believed in signing players for the Scottish League. He always thought, I think he came out recently when he was plugging his autobiography and he said something similar then, that if he was still in charge of Rangers, they would have known bought his Lennon Miller. I don't know. I think it's because everything's data driven now. It's hard to look good in this league, if that makes any sense. Like, I try to look at some data before I come on a pod tonight, and there's not much great data there for anybody in this league, to be honest with you. It's all quite pretty poor. I mean,
subjective.
Very subjective. It's on the eye test for me. If you look at Gogic, his numbers fine, they look decent, but he's far better on the eye test than what any data analysis is going to tell you. Braga, the same. Shanklin, the same. The next boy we're going to speak about, definitely the same too. You also look at the two signings we have made for the league, and Connor Barn and Lyle Cameron. Now, how have they two? Why are one of they two not starting regularly in that team? Right now, Connor Barnes had a bit of a stop-start
career.
To his Rangers career anyway. To his Rangers career, in terms of Lyle Cameron, he's definitely had a bit of a stop-start because he's picked up injuries and things like that. Gary O'Sullivan, he just brought up Bailey Rice. I keep hearing about all this hype about Bailey Rice, and I'm yet to see it. I don't know what Bailey Rice offers in this Rangers team if he comes in, because I've not seen him play. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know? I'm going to pop a pin on the Bailey Rice thing for Billy, but I'm going to let you finish that point, Scotty. But I've just got a wee question in my head for Billy to follow on to that.
Oh, that's fine, mate. That's fine. I just think if we're going to buy a team to win this league now, I don't know who you buy, because there's no many that's good enough. See, when Martin O'Neill can come into Celtic as interim manager, and his Fitba is still going. His Fitba is going to win them games, right? Because I said this last week. The whole Fitba's developed, right? But Martin O'Neill's not developed, and neither Scottish Hitler. So his team's still going to win better matches because long ball, guess what? It works in Scottish Hitler. Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult to. Well, league's full of hammer throws. No one of the English laugh at it. It's an absolute joke. It's a disgrace, our league, man. But I struggle to find where the players are in the league to win, is it? Because I don't think the quality's there like it was. I mean, back when Walter was here, he went out and brought Christian Daly in and Davy Weir, right? Two players you would absolutely love to be in this Rangers squad just now because you know that's what's needed, right? Kyle Lafferty, Lee McCulloch, Ferguson, Stephen Davis, the list is endless because he was smart and he knew these players had what it took to make a difference. So I struggle to see where any of those type of players are in this league currently because I don't think the quality's there at the minute.
But I'm a big believer in that, Scotty. When it comes to this league's not a difficult league to work out, and really, the one of the easiest things with this league is you beat a low block and people go the infamous low block. Low block, in my opinion, in the SPFL is genuinely a complete myth and has been for the last 5 seasons now. Since the pandemic, most teams will come out and play football. At the moment, they will come out and they'll at least have a go at certain periods throughout the game. To beat that low block, it's not that difficult. Make them move. And you make them move by playing faster, playing smarter, and being stronger and bolder. I think I've said this before, Scott, and you'll be sick of hearing me saying it. Football's not a difficult game. It boils down to pit ball, in net, keep ball, out net. And you just go and get a defence that keeps the ball out the net, and you go and buy a couple of strikers that go and put the ball in the net. And some midfielders just, to go and do the tidy work and all that. But it's no that difficult a concept. But Billy, I said I had a loaded question for you because, your tardiness, and I had to pick your player for you, and I had to take the heat with putting Shankland on there to give you my Starboy wonder pick. When it comes to the infamous Bailey Rice in Bailey's career at the moment, you look at others around him, that were in his peer group, and the greatest comparable is Lennon Miller because their two career paths have sat side by side. The difference in Bailey Rice and Lennon Miller is about 80 league appearances, roughly, or at least 60 league appearances. So if you are right now, Danny Rowe, what do you do with Bailey Rice in January? Do you send him to Wraith on the co-op loan deal, or do you tell him get your backside to work? What do you do with him?
Just before answering the Bailey Rice, not buying time or anything by any means, Mitch. And the one thing that did occur to me, you see, we've been talking about this failure to sign Scottish players. I wonder if it's a failure to plan. Every time we bring in a management team, we always say we need someone in the management team who knows the Scottish League. We don't seem to do that with the recruitment team and the technical team. Thelwell's going to come into Scottish football. He's not going to know the players. He's not going to know Scottish football the way someone should. He's not going to know the gems. I think they're missing a trick. I think instead of saying, right, get Neil McCannon with Danny Rule, we should be looking at someone who knows the recruitment side of things in Scotland, who comes in alongside Kevin Thelwell when you do that sort of appointment. So just as a thought, I just wonder if we're lacking a knowledge base and that Thelwell hasn't bought Scottish players. He just doesn't know the market. Bailey Rice, I've sort of kept my powder dry on it a bit, but I've
not today.
No. The time has come. The truth must be told. And I kind of agree with Scotty in this. I've just never seen much more than a tidy player. And not just a tidy player, but a tidy player who suffers from the same malaise that a lot of the youth team products do. They come out of the Rangers Academy and they're okay on the ball, but they have almost no positional sense off the ball. And I think back to like Ross McCausland, just totally in a European game, losing his runner like it was like an under-15s game. And I think what happens is we get all these really good young players, and at their levels in Scotland, they are among the best of the best. So they kind of, they run games, and they tend to kind of control the ball, and they don't get that experience of where they should be positionally when they don't have the ball. So it's not second nature. And then they come into a team and everybody thinks they're the finished article or close to it. And half of their game is, and half of their game's really underdeveloped. And I think back to, what's it, Ollie McBurney, that one of the Bundesliga coaches said that basically his hard drive was empty when it came to positional sense off the ball. And I wonder if there's a bit of that with Bailey Rice. There's been that with Ross McCausland. I'm the same as Scotty. I just see a tidy player on the ball, but not someone who's so good that you will forgive the lapses or the gaps in their game. I think he needs to go out and get games. Gordon Strachan does not talk a whole pile of sense, but one of the things that he did talk through a number of years ago was the trajectory that he had as a young player versus what young players do now. And he basically talked you through how he would play for like 3 different teams when he was younger, and he'd be playing, like 3 games a week, training 3 times a week, versus someone coming through the academy system in Scotland who might train once during the week, go up to Aberdeen, sit on the bench, come on for 15 minutes, touch the ball 6 times. Surprise, surprise, you're not getting better doing that. You're not in match situations. And we took Bailey Rice because at the point we picked up Bailey Rice, we thought he was the better prospect. But Lennon Miller came into a team, and he hasn't just played games, he's played games where he's been relied on, but he's had to develop the positional sense, where he's got a chance to make mistakes that maybe a Bailey Rice wouldn't. I think we've failed Bailey Rice. I think we've failed a lot of the players that come through Rangers. We talk about having plans and paths for them, but the proof of the pudding is Bailey Rice and Lennon Miller. Players develop at different rates, but we haven't given Bailey Rice a chance to be the player he could be. And now he's going to play catch-up in his career. Now he needs to go out somewhere and try and get that side of his game. He can still do it, but he is now playing catch-up. And if I'm Danny Rule, I'm looking to put him out somewhere unless I see something amazing in training, unless I see a situation where like I suddenly think I can use him for a specialist role. But I think he's missing part of his game, and I don't think that's necessarily Bailey Rice's fault. And just when I see him on the pitch, he's just kind of underwhelming. Nothing against him, tidy, but just like, you're not getting excited. You're not thinking he's a game changer when you bring him on. I would say if he could get out on loan to someone in the SPFL, that would be a pretty decent chance to see what he could do. But I'm kind of at the not holding my breath stage where Bailey Rice is concerned. I hope he surprises me, but like he is quite well into his career for the level he's at. So, yeah, hope that answers your question, Mitch.
It does, and thanks for that. I refuse to let you keep your powder dry after turning up late tonight. This is how Scotty makes me feel every week. But speaking of talented youngsters, we have one player.
Can I come in quickly?
Come on in, handsome.
Billy, see what caught me most right now. One thing Russell Martin did with Bailey Rice, right? He played him at centre back in pre-season, and then was at a cup game against Alloa. He played him at left back. Now, Rice got injured that day, right? But I think he got injured because it was his hamstring had done or something. Now, he was getting made to run. And the one thing I take for that performance against Alloa, the Alloa right mid completely tore him a new one, right? But what caught my eye that day about Bailey Rice was the lack of, not energy is not the right word I'm looking for, but in terms of work rate in industry is what I'm looking for. Bailey Rice has got a severe problem off the ball from what I've seen. And it's almost as if Russell Martin put him at left back that day to show that. That's kind of my only point. But when I seen him at left back that day, I thought, what the hell are you playing at? But then see when you watch him getting tore off a part-timer, you're like, maybe there has been some, come on, says it, he needed to improve off the ball. There's a few managers have said it now because we've had enough managers. So I think it's down to the Kenny says athleticism. after the ball, it's movement, it's running. I don't think he does enough yet, so I don't think he's going to make it at Rangers. Could be wrong, but I can't see us offering Bailey Rice a new contract.
Well, I don't think you're wrong there. I think, as you say, it's a very big 18 months for Bailey Rice, in my opinion, that I think we do the smart thing where you offer him another 2-year contract before sending him out for at least the remainder of this season. Get him out the mess that is, that has been this season. But yes, mate.
Which I think to caveat it though, I think Rangers have done him a disservice by not sending him on loan.
Definitely, I agree.
Rangers
Absolutely.
have handled this boy's development absolutely appallingly. The only way you're going to get industry, athleticism, work rate into that boy is to put him out on loan and let him play in the loans.
He needs to, in my opinion, between now and the end of the
Experience.
season, he needs 20, 25 games into him. And I think that's going to be the acid test of, you give somebody else the loan that we seem to get stuck with a lot of the time of, look, he will play 70% of the games that you've got between now and the end of the season, because the purpose is we'll pay the bulk of his wages, we'll pay 95% of them, but the purpose of this loan is to get Bailey experience. So in return, we'll pay his wages, but you're going to play him. And I don't know if that's, a bit 1990s, bargaining, negotiating, but we have another two talented youngsters to mention there. Firstly, Laura's wee boy, who's been watching, the last wee hour there and apparently has been tuned in. It's good that we've got our young viewers catered to while we're here. And last, but by no means least, experienced Wonder Boys in the SPFL, as sponsored by Billy J. I present you David Watson of Kilmarnock. He is, for those, again, most people will be aware of David Watson. That's, the lad's coming up for 21 in February. He's right footer, currently worth $1.5 million, plays for Kelly. He's based on last season, he has done 42 appearances, 4 goals, 1 assist with an average match rating of 6.7. He's played in a myriad of the number 6 role, into centre mid, into right mid, into right wing, and he's played basically everywhere Kelly's needed him to. He's basically Dijon Sterling, but from Timu at this point. So at this point, Billy, come talk to us about your wonderful star pick that is David Watson.
Well, obviously, I've got a lot of time for David Watson, and I've had my eye on him for really coming through the youth ranks. As you can see, that 6.7 in a Kelly team, he's getting on for the golden Papach mark of 7 out of 10, which is, you think he would be able to add another 0.3 playing in a Rangers team. Joking and all aside, it is the kind of profile that we should be getting across. And if Thelwell is broadening his net in terms of looking at Europe and looking in Scotland, this is the kind of signing we should be looking at the data on. I mean, the way you present it there, it looks sort of like a no-brainer to bring in someone with that sort of profile who's got experience in the league. He can handle the league. He knows what that's about. He's putting in solid performances week in, week out for a Kelly team. And you would think it's not too controversial. I mean, there's always the question of, I'm not being reductive, what's his background? Who does he support? Because,
what school did he go to?
Well, no, it's more just like if he's of a Celtic background, he might not want to come to us. That's the question.
That's true.
And you think about, was it Halloran that came, the flying winger who basically turned up, took a wage, never played, was seen in the Celtic away end. So you kind of have to be careful, I think, in vetting. And and like I say, I don't know what his background is. I'm presuming there's no issue there. This is the kind of profile we should be looking at, but we should be looking. You should be looking at bringing in 2 or 3 guys like this each season, because not all of them are going to work out. If you bring in 2 or 3 and 1 or 2 of them work out, that's not a bad ratio. For me, like I say, liked him for a long time. That's why I picked him. He gets my endorsement.
Fantastic, Billy. See him sold. Let me go and get the checkbook out there now. Nicky, I'm gonna kind of talk you through David Watson and numbers, and I want you forget that you've heard the name and forget that you know the team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to propose to you, you're Kevin Thelwell, and trust me, we know you're an improvement
Thank
in
you for
Thelwell.
that. Mhm.
Right, for a start, you don't need a nose job that Thelwell does. Scott, I don't know what you're chuckling at down there. You're next then. But when I'm going to talk you through a player who is 21 years old come the end of the
Yeah.
season, he has made over 100 first team appearances and at
Mm-hmm.
domestic level. He's born ready, seasoned under 21 internationalist, and he's essentially plateaued where he is right now. His current team, he can't go any further because they've essentially reached as far as they can, with
Yeah.
budgets and finances. So if I then said to you, well, here is a 25-year-old from down the championship who's played 80 games, and it might be okay and it might not be, but one's going to take 10 grand a week and the other one's going to take 18 grand a week. Which of those two players would you rather have in the team?
I'm taking Watson every time, but that's me, not a Selwell. I don't think Selwell even sees players like Watson. I don't even think they're even on his radar.
And it comes back to that age-old snobbery question, doesn't it? Because
Which is a shame. It literally is a shame because we could bring him on as a player. As you say, he's plateaued at Kilmarnock. We could do something more. He could come on and much better with the likes of us. And again, do well for us domestically as well. But the chances of him even being considered, I think, are slim.
Scotty, I'm going to come to you with the next point on Watson. And don't worry, it's going to be part sponsored by Kenny over at Bluebells there. So if you're Kevin Thelwell and you get a chance to take a young player like Watson for a pint over in Lanzarote there in Porto del Carmen, so you're off to Kenny's bar in the Bluebells. Tell me what your pitch for David Watson would be and why he should sign for us. Versus, let's be honest, he will have more lucrative options in the Championship, maybe even as a squad player down in a lower end Premier League team, or even if you start to look across the waters at places like Hamburg, Wolfsburg, those kind of mid-table German teams. What's the pitch to make him come to us?
It's a very good question, Mitch. And I'm not a car salesman, so I've any type of salesman, so he probably wouldn't sign if I get a pint with him for 5 minutes. I'd ask him, I'd probably say, why the hell do you want to come to Rangers?
They get picked Kenny to make it a double for him.
I know, because look at what we've done to Bailey Rice, Connor Barn, and Lyle Cameron so far. It's a hard sell, to be honest. You need to be good enough to get in a team to play. One thing Watson has got is a beast at a long throw. It would be like signing Rory Delap 2.0 for Stoke. He's a good box-to-box midfielder, etc. But somebody else has already brought us up in the comments, Mitch. Like, where's the physicality? That's Cameron and Connor Barn are small players. David Watson's about the same height. So it's difficult. Does he get potential? He's got a massive ceiling and stuff, but the middle of the park's probably an area where we're okay. Diamande, Raskin, Cameron, Barron, Rothwell. I'm still convinced he'll come onto a game. You know what?
So sure.
You're kind of okay there. So, do you punt it that he's going to come in and replace Raskin? Could he replace Raskin? Maybe in 2 years after playing for his eye, but not right now. He's not going to replace Raskin. It's potential you're signing. Also, what we also need to remember is last season this boy wasn't ever present for Kilmarnock under Derek McInnes. It was the season before. He'd get more appearances, but last season he didn't play much. Scotty would just get go round for round. I mean, he's at 10 pints of tennis, and Watson will just give in and say, aye, whatever. You're probably right there, Kenny, to be honest with you.
I tell you what, Kenny, you're taking the place of Thelwell in here.
but what I'm trying to say is, looking at previous examples and how we've done this recently, Mitch, it's a hard sell because none of the boys that have came in for the league have done it yet, if that makes any sense. Through different circumstances, whatever, injuries, should they have had a run in the team? There's a lot of questions, but at the end of the day, have they been good enough to come in and take a jersey? No. So there's that, if you know what I mean. I'm sorry it's not a sales pitch you wanted. Obviously, you speak about it being a massive club and he's got European football and all that type of stuff. Laddie dummies competing for trophies, but is he going to play?
But you know,
that wasting his time, to be honest with you.
That actually brings me to a nice closing point, because I'm aware that, see, and I can't even get into trouble if I get into overtime tonight because the gaffer's with me tonight. See? But really, but it brings me to the point of domestic level players, and obviously we've touched on the likes of Barron, Cameron, you know, and we touch on even our own with Curtis, Rice, you know, players who are struggling to break into the team at the moment. Do you think there is as much, and it's just a one-word answer from all three of you, and I'll go around in my version of clockwise, do you think there is a problem with domestic level players and wanting to come to Rangers, in terms of, if you're a player who's playing 25 plus games a season at your current club, other than money, what makes you come to Rangers? Nikki, I'm start with yourself.
Just a one-word answer, you're saying?
Other than, well, I mean, you can have 2 sentences, I'll be generous.
Well, yeah, I think that there is a problem, because, as I was going to say previously, like, we're saying players that we would like to see come in, but there's also the issues if they want to come in, that these players want to come to Rangers, not just given the situation that we're in now, but are they going to get played? You don't want to leave, as you say, playing 25 games to sitting on the bench.
And I think, as you say there, for young players in their careers, that's something that they need to figure out, because, you know, 2 years of good money versus, you know, 21-year-old, 2 years of good money, but 2 years is a long time in football, and your name very quickly gets forgotten.
Exactly, like Rice and Miller, that's the difference between them. Played games, experience.
Precisely. Billy, what about yourself?
I think we've got a massive problem. At a time when we had the pick, we could have got the best young Scottish players and we could have lavished the best facilities on them. We produced Barry Ferguson. That was kind of it. And he was a freak, you know, arguably he's just like, you know, in the best possible sense. You know, he would have just been
Not in the same sense as Scotty, don't worry.
Yeah, but you know, he'd have been like top class if he'd rocked up in Alloa or whatever. When we had that advantage, we didn't really do much with it. We didn't produce much. Now we're in a situation where we don't have a track record to sell to, you know, to Lennon Miller's family if we wanted him. There is now a pathway for Scottish players to go to Italy and down south, and the likes of Lewis Ferguson, etc., have shown that Scottish players can thrive in that environment. So why would you stay in Scotland for, you know, more grief, less money, crap weather, when you could go to Serie A and experience that? And also, we just don't get that level of player anymore. You know, Billy Gilmore was gone before we knew it. So we are not, when we are working with the Bailey Rices of the world, not the Billy Gilmore. So I think we've got a massive problem. What's troubling me more is, like, I think Nicky had the same reaction as Scotty's assertion that Rothwell's going to come good, because like when you said that, I think I looked up and both of us were going, really? So that might be for another pod, Scotty, but it would be interesting to
I see the vision, Scotty.
I can see him getting serious there about this.
Well, I am going to wrap up with the ever wonderful gaffer himself. It feels only right to let him have the final word, because normally I don't let him have one. So, Scotty, out of the players that we have profiled tonight, so Gogic, Shankland, Watson, and our man Braga, who would you sign?
Right, 2 points. First one is just a quick into Billy about Joe Rothwell. It Leeds are my English team, right? I've never had it. I watched Leeds 46 times last season in the Championship. When he came into the centre of midfield, he came in with Eo Tanaka, who was signed to Bundesliga 2 for £4 million. They sold Kamara to Ron in France and signed this boy Tanaka. But him and Rothwell got a game in midfield due to, I think it was injuries and suspension or whatever it was, and Ethan Ampadu got moved back to centre back. And Rothwell just looked an absolute baller. Once he came into that team, he didn't come out of it. No, Leeds United and Rangers, right, in terms of expectations, aren't similar right now. But when Leeds United are in the Championship, expectations are similar because Leeds are expected to win every week. Rothwell played in that team. He was one of their best players. He was very productive, threat for set pieces, could move the ball very quickly, get forward quick. He has got a turn of pace. You wouldn't think it with the weight of him, but he has got a turn of pace. There is an absolute player in there. It's just, again,
It's all right, mate. I'll take him to Slimming World with me. Don't worry.
let's see if you look at. What was I going to say? Mitch, put me off my rant now.
Go on, come on. You can
anyway,
find it.
Anyway, moving on for Joe Rothwell, I would probably go for Gogic because I think that's what Rangers need most out of all the players we've spoke about tonight. Got Shankland, Braga, etc. Gogic, value for money, leadership at the back, knows the league. It's a no-brainer for me. He'll fill the void that Leon Balogun did last year. His left, and that's leadership within the changing room. If he's not playing every week, which I wouldn't want him to play every week, he'll do all that stuff off the park. He'll drive standards. He'll tell players what they're doing, what they're not doing, blah blah blah.
But I think we Gogic, mate, just touching on that vocal point there, and it's the one final point I will leave us on tonight. It's one thing that we really miss at the back at the moment is somebody to guide the young players beside them. You see touches with it with Cornelius at the moment, but I think when you look at, Jigga on Sunday, some of that would have been easily resolved if a Gogic type player stood beside him and barked some instructions after that shaky 5 minutes and said, your job for the next 10 minutes is stay here, that's your man, don't do anything else. Beat him for a header, clean the ball out, keep it simple and get the yips out your system because you've had 5 minutes of it. And I genuinely think that's kind of what hindered Jigga a wee bit at the weekend was any player can have a howling opening 10 minutes to an Old Firm game, call it nerves, call it whatever, call it a bit of stage fright. It can happen to any player. But if you've got an experienced player beside you who will not put an arm around you, not give you a cuddle, but will actually just shout at you and tell you, this is what you are going to do. Take the decision out of his hands and tell him this is it. Keep it simple. However, before Scotty has a hernia that we are on like nearly 20 minutes overtime, sorry, Scotty. But I will wrap the pod up here this evening. Do not forget to join the lads tomorrow night for the Q&A pod. Nikki, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us this evening. Some great points made. Hopefully you're not a stranger.
No, I'll be back.
Oh, go on then, indulge us. Billy, despite being tardy, it's been a pleasure as always.
Yeah, apologies, and thanks for bailing us out with David Watson.
It's all right, mate. I know that we need to send the carrier pigeons to get through to you nowadays.
And I really need to see this shirt run out, Billy. I need to see the shirt.
See, Billy, the pressure's on now. I'm going to have to put a big spotlight on you.
Beyond all expectations. So I've still got it, but it's going to Goodwill charity. So
Oh,
it's all right. You can wear the wee Willy Winky one that you had on last time.
You seem a wee bit too focused in that for my liking, Mitch. I'm not thinking I will. You want to see me in that, you have to sign up for my OnlyFans account.
Just remember, drop the link in bio. Scotty, as always, it is a pleasure to have you with us, and I will continue to annoy you after the pod this evening.
Yes,
but
I'm
the reason why you can't sleep. That's fine. But for everybody else in the comments and those watching at home, thank you as always for watching. And don't forget, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Good night.